Sampradaya is having the strength today is just because these Goswamis continue their service in Sridham Vrindavan. If you see the contemporary scenario of that time, 1500s, 15th century, 14th century, all of the rest of the Goswamis, their diplomacy, their to maintain with and they develop their strength. Yes, we are able to see flourishing. There are more than 1,000 temples there. They are still protected. Of course, there were times when there were attacks in Vrindavan and temples and deities were saved. Hmm. But yes, it is that extent was not so much than like other spiritual cities. And of course, more important thing is the city was protected. Of course, the bhakti was protected. The bhakti philosophy and bhakti tattva was protected and cultivated and preached from this place, this city of Vrindavan. Okay, so we have seen last time how Jiva Goswami, with his wit and this is with his intelligence, translated intelligence, he created multiple temples, established. He started a training institute. He trained so nice Vaishnavas. We have seen today morning Srinivas Acharya Navtandas Thakur and Shyamananda Pandit. They were trained, and on their because of them, the preaching expanded. This was a mercy, and this was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life story is like that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to touch one personality. That personality will become energetic, fragrant, energetic, and this person will go out and he will preach to the other cities. Like one candle lighting to another candle, and that candle is lighting many other candles. One Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's biography you see. Mahaprabhu, of course, he traveled to South India, and it happened all other places. Mahaprabhu used to go to a village. There he used to do Nagar, Kirtan and all this. And while doing Kirtan, people get enchanted and absorb the bhakti rasa. They will absorb the prema. And when they accept this, they will go to their own villages and they will distribute the same prema to the villages. And we can see wherever places Mahaprabhu went on the South India trip, that impact and impressions, even though today we can see the bhakti is strong in South India because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footsteps went over the places. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu touched Rup and Sanatana, and they enlightened whole world sitting in Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on. He touched Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he touched Ramananda, and in this South India tour again, Mahaprabhu came across the place called Sri Lanka. This is the place, of course, which is enlightened by, decorated by Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, and it's a very important place in Sri Vaishnavas. And there also Mahaprabhu went and took darshan. And in the Shiranga place, Mahaprabhu came across one wonderful family called Venkat Bhatta family. Venkat Bhatta and his brothers. There were three brothers actually. So Venkat Bhatta and Thirumal Bhatta and Prabhupada Saraswati. So these three brothers were very highly positioned devotees in Shiranga temple, and they were very learned, educated. These devotees, when they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu singing and dancing in Shiranga Dham in ecstasy, Venkat Bhatta immediately understood this is not a common man who is dancing, because he was very expert into bhakti principles. He used to see the symptoms of Shuddha So he understood, Hare Krishna, he understood the symptoms presented by Mahaprabhu are not common. He immediately and of course requested him to stay in his house because Chaturmas was going on rainy season. People don't travel at time. So we were said, okay, we'll stay in my house. And there in his house, Venkatavatta and Mahaprabhu had very nice friendly relationship. And in this friendly relationship, Venkatavatta and Mahaprabhu used to joke a lot. Of course, Venkatavatta is a kind of uncommon scenario we can see. Venkatavatta was from the Sri Sampradaya, and Mahaprabhu was in the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, was Gaudiya, the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So principles were different, but still they had a very friendly relationship. Mahaprabhu used our Brahma Madhva Sampradaya worships Radha and Krishna, and Sri Sampradaya worship Lakshmi Narayana. And there, by jokingly, Mahaprabhu used to say, Amara Thakur Krishna Gopa Kochakar Sadvihana Kine Kai Jine Jake Tahara Sangama. Used to tell, my Lord is Krishna, is walking behind the cows. Then, even if like that, and Lakshmi is a owner of all the progresses, all the opulences, why she is running behind is Krishna? And this is a joking discussion between him. And of course, people say, how can Lakshmi go behind Krishna? So, of course, for that, Mahaprabhu gives the references. There is a Nagapatni's prayers to Lord Shri Krishna. Yes, even in the prayers, Nagapatni mentions that yes, when Lakshmi is doing prayers and prarthana and tapasya for eternal time, Elaki Sukapurva Chadi Chirakala, Vartaniya Makari Tava, Karila. Lakshmi is doing tapasya to get an association of Krishna. And he used to say, if you think like that, Lakshmi is a very chaste wife of Narayana, then why she is going behind another person who is Krishna? And of course, in this question, there was a sarcasm. If you think that she is chaste and she is going to Krishna. And in this, it is sarcasm towards those people who consider Krishna and Narayana separate. So there in the answer, Venkat Bhatta mentions that no, it's not like that. Narayana and Krishna both are the same person. But kahe Krishna Narayana ekani swarupa Krishnete adhika vaitatyadi rupa. So Krishna and Narayana both are the same. Of course, Krishna is a little bit more complete, but still they both are the same. And because they both are the same, Lakshmi ji accepting favor of Krishna and worshipping Krishna is not a kind of unchastity for her. Then Mahaprabhu used to tease him some more time. Okay, if you say like Lakshmi ji is Narayana and Krishna is not different, but then why Lakshmi ji is not getting the association of Krishna? And like that, this discussion keep on continues, and Mahaprabhu used to establish the supremacy of worshipping of Krishna. And of course, this joking discussion with full of philosophy, it will be turning both of them into the ecstasy. Mahaprabhu stayed in Venkat Bhatta's house for 4 months, and there was one gentle person called Gopala Bhatta. Venkat Bhatta's son was Gopal Bhatta. He was just 7-year-old boy. And he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he instantly got attached to him. Generally, and in this, Venkat Bhatta used to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very nicely, washing his plates and serving him all the way. And he was day and night, they will be always sitting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, discussing, talking, joking. And he was so much attached to Mahaprabhu, and one day, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the sannyasa vesh, just now you saw in the drama. Sannyasa vesh means saffron cloth, and very, very austere lifestyle. No, this one, head shaven completely, and he was looking very beautiful. And beauty, but with this renounced dress up like that, where Gopal Bhatta, even a small 7 years old boy, used to feel pain in his heart. And he was feeling, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, why, but he used to love Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so much that he is doing so much hardships and he taking so much austerities, his heart used to cry. Even small 7 year old boy used to cry. He used to cry seeing Mahaprabhu's this sannyasa root of sannyasa salvation. And one day, in this absorption, he kept on crying and crying and crying, and he was thinking, when there is this day when I will be seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Navadvip Leela, because he had heard this from Mahaprabhu's assistant there. So, how will I see? And while crying and crying, he slept off. In the dream, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip form, and as well as he saw all this, he had darshan of Navadvip Dham also. And his he saw Advaitacharya. Immediately Advaitacharya Prabhu came, okay, and he was about to say something to Gopal Bhatta, dream book. He woke up, it was morning time, and with the same situation, he came running to Mahaprabhu and fell at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu and kept on crying and crying and crying. And because Mahaprabhu was in sannyasa vesh, and just now he had darshan of Mahaprabhu into Navadip last time, and he was crying at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu understood what's happening, and after some time he got up from the Mahaprabhu lotus feet, and he looked up. He didn't see Mahaprabhu in a sannyasa form. Immediately, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. So Gopal, small Gopal, he fell at the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and kept on crying, and after some time he got up and looked at Mahaprabhu. He didn't see Mahaprabhu in the sannyasa vesh, he saw Mahaprabhu in a Navadvipa dress, Navadvipa vesh, with long, long curly hairs, flowing and beautiful Mahaprabhu. And after seeing that, Gopal got mesmerized. Of course, Gopal saw the Mahaprabhu in the Krishna form as well. And of course, the same time, Mahaprabhu took him to Navadvip Dham and showed all the opulence of Navadvip Dham. And after that, Gopal and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, both of them sat together, kept on crying, and Mahaprabhu drenched small Gopal in his tears of love, and Gopal also kept on crying. In this way, Mahaprabhu bestowed small Gopal with Krishna Prem here. In this way, 4 months Mahaprabhu stayed there, and finally Mahaprabhu gave instructions to small Gopal, 7 years old, imagine. Of course, when there was a time to leave, and Gopal said, I will also come with you. I will not stay here because he was so much attached. Small boy, he was so much attached. He wants to give up the comfortable house of his parents and he wants to join Mahaprabhu. You know? And this, of course, Mahaprabhu said, don't come right now. You stay with your parents, serve your parents nicely. And when your responsibility finished, when parents passed away, then at time you can come and join my 2 disciples, Rup and Sanatan, in Vrindavan. So this is the time, Mahaprabhu was arranging everything, setting up everything for the drama that's going to happen in Vrindavan. He, before coming to Jagannath Puri, he met Rupa and Sanatan there in Ramkeli. And then they were going there. And here he saw this Gopal Bhatta and asked him to go. And of course, Rupa and Sanatan didn't go there at all yet. But yes, this is happening. And then Mahaprabhu told him, you just come to Vrindavan after your responsibility gets over. And Mahaprabhu leaves Srirangam, and this small Gopal small Gopal was in the separation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And yes, after this, small Gopal would be never seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his whole life. This was the last darshan of him. Of course, Gopal stayed there and served his parents till their end of life. And during this time, he was trained by his uncle, Prabhupada Saraswati. Prabhupada was very strong, yes, very strong scholar in these bhakti principles, and he got trained by him. Of course, Prabhupada Saraswati, he also after that he leaves this place, comes to Vrindavan, and there also he preaches nicely into Glory Vaishnava Sampradaya. So Gopal in this way, he stays here, and when his parents were almost at the deathbed, they permits him and orders him, you can go and join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He takes their permission and runs towards Vrindavan. Of course, by the time, he also was very expert in all bhakti tattvas. He has already taken teachings, and of course, he has taken diksha from Prabhupada Saraswati, and sannyas also will take later on from Prabhupada Saraswati. In this way, Gopal he started towards Vrindavan, and one thing happened here. Gopal was coming to Vrindavan, and there this Goswamis got a letter from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before Gopal reaches there. Mahaprabhu was inquiring, did anybody called Gopal Bhatta join you there? Because Mahaprabhu was so eager to see Gopal Bhatta join Vrindavan, Goswamis in Vrindavan. And as soon as Gopal Bhatta came, all these people, all these sannyas, all these Goswamis, they were knowing that Gopal is coming because Mahaprabhu already announced his arrival. They welcomed him nicely. All the Goswamis, Sanat Goswami, Satan Goswami, and other Goswamis were present there. They welcomed him with wholeheartedly. Mahaprabhu has ordered them in the letter. There's Gopal Bhatta is coming there. Please accept him as your younger brother and train him in the bhakti principles. So like that, as soon as Gopal Bhatta came there, he was welcomed and accepted. And Gopal Bhatta, Sanatana Goswami wrote a letter back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, this is such person that you are waiting has come. As soon as Mahaprabhu got this letter, of course, when the letter was arriving in the Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu in the morning was talking about it, and when the letter comes, and Mahaprabhu becomes very joyous. And he writes back a letter to Sanatana Goswami and gives some gifts to Gopal Bhatta. He gives a few things as a gift to Gopal Bhatta, along with the letter of blessings. He gives his coffin, as well as he gives him the wooden platform on which Mahaprabhu used to sit for worshiping. So these two things as a gift are taken back. Of course, we have seen Raghunath Das Goswami got gifts from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What are those? Shaligram Shila and Govardhan Shila and Gunjamala. See, this whenever we get some gifts like this, which are from seniors or maybe from deities, Mahaprasadam gifts, how we should worship and how we should respect them. It is being shown by these Goswamis, Raghunath Das Goswami as well as Gopal Bhatta Goswami. When Gopal Bhatta Goswami got this gifts of two things, copying of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the wooden platform. You can see those things even today preserved in the temple of Radha Raman. Of course, they showed us. Did they show something? No, they didn't show us, but they have still preserved there and they kept it. So, how to worship, how to respect this paraphernalia, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's paraphernalia. Sometimes we don't respect spiritual paraphernalia like karta, mridanga, and other paraphernalia of deity, that is garlands. So we should be very, very carefully respecting them. And as we keep mridanga on the ground, keep karta on the ground, sometimes we push it. So we should not be treating like that. We should be treating this paraphernalia very, very carefully because these are the expansion of Balaram. And of course, when Gopal Bhatta Goswami got these gifts from Mahaprabhu, he started respecting and worshipping them. Even when bhoga offering happens in a temple, bhoga is offered to this paraphernalia as well. Even today, Mahaprabhu's copy and Mahaprabhu's that plank, golden plank. So both of them are worshipped and offered bhoga every day. In this way, Mahaprabhu sent some nice gifts and some instructions to Raghunath Goswami to assist Rupa and Sanatan in the writing literature and spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world by accepting many disciples. So, he was, most of the time Gopal Bhatta was assisting Sanatana Goswami in writing book called Hari Bhakti Vilas. And finally, mostly this Hari Bhakti Vilas was a huge amount of big literature which speaks about how devotees should act, how devotees should behave, this kind of thing. Vaishnava etiquette whole course is in Hari Bhakti Vilas, how a devotee should work on. And of course, later on, he wrote commentary on this Hari Bhakti Vilas. Of course, Hari Bhakti Vilas was a creation of Sanatana Goswami, but most of the part in its creation was given, contribution was given by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Later on, he wrote commentary on this Hari Bhakti Vilas and gave a concise process of deity worship called as a Shatkriya Sara Dipika. So, which is referred by all the pujaris into deity worship things. Of course, by this Shatakriya Sarthapika also is very, very huge. And that also is concised by Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur in the book called Archana Paddhati. And this Archana Paddhati also again we have simplified in our Whitefield Kartikeya Prabhu in a very simple way. Of course, whatever principles of deity worship we are learning here also, they are coming from these places. So, how to worship deities even in detail is mentioned. Of course, we have different places in Vrindavan. We have Radha Madan Mohan Temple, which is established by Sanatana Goswami, Radha Gauri Temple by Rupa Goswami, Radha Gopinath Temple by Raghunath Das Goswami, and Radha Damodar by Jiva Goswami. Like that, all the temples are connected to one Goswami. And particularly then, this Gopal Bhatta Goswami is associated with which temple? Radha Raman Temple. It's a very nice story how the Radha Raman Temple came into existence. Of course, one day, of course, this is after passing away of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completed his pastime on earth. The Gopal Bhatta Goswami was in a separation. Of course, that time he had a darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was a small child. And when he grew up, he came to Vrindavan. And after Vrindavan also, he could not see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just got a letter from Mahaprabhu and he got some gifts from Mahaprabhu that were very dear to him. But he could not see the Mahaprabhu. But one day, Mahaprabhu also completed the pastime in the earth. And now he was in a deep separation of Mahaprabhu. One day, Mahaprabhu came to his dream. And he said, you go to Nepal in the Gandaki river and there you will get the Shaligram Shila and you worship them as masters. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami goes there. He gets 12 Shaligram Shila from them. And he starts worshipping. Of course, initially he was not, of course, 12 Shaligram Shila, at a time it came into his hand. Once he dropped it and again 2-3 times it happened that it came into his hand back. When he accepted the Shaligram Shilas and started worshipping them. And then what happened? One day he was worshipping Shaligram Shila. He used to make a small pouch of the Shaligram Shila and put it in his neck. And whenever he go, he used to carry them and worship them. And of course, Gopal Bhatta Goswami had not had any house, no hut, no temple, nothing. He will be just roaming around among the trees because all the Goswamis also used to have the same practice. Even you have seen all the Goswamis have built big temples. They used to live very austere life. For the deities, they will arrange all kinds of opulences. But for themselves, they will never ask for opulences. Radha Madan Mohan Temple, Ramaguru Temple. The worship was very high standard. Golden plates, Bhoga was being offered to those deities and Chappan Bhog and everything. But Goswamis, ऐसा नहीं कि वो भगवान को 56 भोग लग गया तो थोड़ा सा इधर भी आना चाहिए. No, they were always having a very austere diet and they used to always have a austere day, always staying under it, not even a room for them in a temple. This kind of a thing was there. So of course, this mood is taken by Srila Prabhupada also. Once I saw okay, there's lots of big temples Prabhupada constructed, new Vrindavan. And that time, one most opulent temple in ISKCON history that time was Dallas Temple, in South Africa. Big opulent temple and a grand opening ceremony happened. And devotees thought, okay, Prabhupada, the new opulent temple have come up with all the facilities and everything. Prabhupada will sit here and write books here, sitting. Devotees are thinking like that. But as soon as this inauguration ceremony happened, Prabhupada booked ticket immediately and came to India for Kumbh Mela. And what is in Kumbh Mela? There was a tent, no AC, no fan, nothing. And no water supply also there. Devotees used to go to the hand pump and take bath there, and they very much cold. Prabhupada had a fever, even the fever Prabhupada took cold bath and all this thing. In such a austere life, Prabhupada also used to live. So this is kind of austerity devotees have. It is said कि Sri Chaitanya Sangi Gane Vairagya Pradhana. Mahaprabhu's associates, they exhibit Vairagya because Mahaprabhu also exhibiting Vairagya. And whoever thinks Mahaprabhu as their near and dear one, and whoever loves Mahaprabhu, they also exhibit the same mood as Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas and he was doing all austerity in the sun. The Goswamis also continued those austerities for themselves. So like that, Gopal Bhatta Goswami also was having no temple. He was having Shaligram Shila on his neck and roaming around. One day, one big merchant came, and he came to Gopal Bhatta Goswami and he offered some deity paraphernalia to him. And he says, this I got in a dream that I should give it to you, please take this. And what he offered to Gopal Bhatta Goswami? The moku, the flute and dress and this and that. And after seeing this, a deity also worship them, dress them nicely. And in this strong desire to worship this deity of Lord Shri Krishna, in the night he slept off. In the morning he woke up and saw one of the Shaligram Shila was transformed into the deity of Radha Raman. It is very small deity. Some places they mention that all these 12 Shilas fused together and became a deity. There's two versions of it. But some people say, okay, one Shila transformed into Radha Raman. And it's a manifested deity. And actually you can see when you saw the Radha Raman temple, the tree was there, right? As the tree, on the tree itself, the bag was hanged, and there he saw the deity just simply formed up. Somebody, if we see this deity closer, of course, this deity is not carved out deity, self-manifested. Some portion of it is still, uneven, backside something. So which shows that it is coming actually from the Shaligram Shila. And that is a day of the celebration. Gopal Bhatta Goswami accepted this deity and started worshipping. And of course, for the deity, there was a big, huge temple was constructed. And of course, the glories of deities is, undescribable. if you have seen this deity, of course, many of you have seen this deity from very, very long distance. But have you seen the close-up photo of this deity? They say this is the most beautiful deity in Vrindavan. Now, see why this is like that. Of course, because they say this deity is self-manifested and it resembles to Krishna. Of course, there are so many other deities are there. Like, Radha Madan Mohan deity, Radha Govind deity, Radha Gopinath deities. Of course, it is mentioned in Shastra that these deities, other deities, Radha Govind, Radha Gopinath, Radha Madan Mohan. People were asking almost 5,000 years back when Krishna already finished his pastimes and nobody was knowing how Krishna was looking because how Krishna was his features. Then Krishna's no Uttara was present that time and Krishna's grandson Vajranagh he was asking Uttara how Krishna was looking, and Vajranagh was the person who established many these deities which were forgotten, but they got it back. So established, he has carved those deities and got it, made it. So Uttara, Mother Uttara mentioned कि Radha Madan Mohan deity is there. Its lotus feet is exactly like Krishna's lotus feet. And if you have to see how Krishna's lotus feet looks, you have to look at Madan Mohan deity's lotus feet. You have to see how Krishna's chest and hands are looking. You have to look after the Radha Govinda deities. And then if you want to see how Krishna's face was looking, you have to go to Radha Gopinath deity. These are the Sambandha, Abhidaya and Devotion deities for us. And when the devotees saw this Radha Ramana deities, it had Mother Radha Govinda, Radha Gopinath, all these which Radha Raman. So these are the most we can see the and sometimes people say we can see Radha Raman's beautiful teeth also. But it's not sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not visible. So this is the most beautiful deity. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was instrumental in setting up the proper standards of deity worship in Vrindavan. He was a wonderful organizer. When he was there, he established a proper deity worship standards in Radha Raman temple, and so it is so organized. It is so organized that even today they follow the same standards or same organization method that Gopal Bhatta Goswami has established. This Radha Raman deity has so many beautiful paraphernalia, very costly paraphernalia are there, and all these pujaris, they are. And it's not that there is no mismanagement happening. The ideal management you want to see, you can manage this. And Prabhupada used to say, the best managed temple in whole Vrindavan is Radha Raman temple. And of course, Radha Raman temple also has very close relationship with ISKCON devotees. Radha Raman temple pujari, but he was not married. And of course, his disciples, many of his disciples also were not married. So one day he initiated one more disciple called Gopinath Pujari, his brother Damodar Das, and he initiated him. And Damodar Das was a married person, and he ordered him, Damodar Das, here onwards, you with your own generation take care of this Radharaman deity. So now that then onwards, Radharaman, so this Damodar Das family is by generation they are taking care of this deity. So this is how Gopal Bhatta Goswami was. He was instrumental in making this big temple, and this way to 1550 he completed his pastime in Vrindavan. Another Goswami we are speaking about today is Raghunath Bhatt Goswami. Among these Goswamis, this is of course these Goswamis, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was very small when he saw Mahaprabhu. There is another Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he also had darshan of Mahaprabhu when he was very young. He was also kind of 7 years old. But Raghunath Bhatta, you may say that Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta both are Bhatta only. The family members are not. No, but Gopal Bhatta was a Bhatta from South India, and Raghunath Bhatta was a Bhatta from Bengal. They were Bhattacharya. Here's Mahaprabhu's one more disciple, Tapan Mishra. His son was Gopal Bhatta. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. When Mahaprabhu showing the pastime of in Navadvip of a scholar, he went to somewhere in Bengal, and there he happened to see Tapan Mishra before sannyas. And Tapan Mishra was so mesmerized to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beauty, he fell at the lotus feet of him, and he was very, very inquisitive, Tapan Mishra. And he asked Tapan Mishra asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is absolute truth? I want to know it. And of course, Mahaprabhu immediately said, Krishna is absolute truth. And his worship is chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And in this way, Mahaprabhu instructed him and secretly told him, you don't stay here. You go to Varanasi. Of course, why to go to Varanasi? Varanasi was the god of Advaitis, Vrindavan of Advaitis people. And what they will do there? But instruction was very strong. But of course, Tapan Mishra took this instruction to his heart, and he shifted his whole family to Varanasi. Varanasi, there was no association. Only one Vaishnava was there present, was a Chandrasekhar Vaidya. And these two devotees used to spend time along with each other in association. After some time, in 1503 or something like that, he shifted to Varanasi. And after some time, Mahaprabhu took sannyas and Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri. And days and years passed by. Mahaprabhu had a South India trip and all these things. And one day Mahaprabhu decided to go to Vrindavan. On the way back to Vrindavan, Mahaprabhu, while returning back from Vrindavan, I'm confusing a little bit here. Okay, while coming back from Vrindavan, Mahaprabhu briefly stayed in Varanasi. And you saw the pastime there, just now in the drama. Mahaprabhu met whom? Rupa Goswami, right? Mahaprabhu stayed there, exactly. Mahaprabhu stayed there only to meet Rupa Goswami, and there's one more person there. Mahaprabhu wanted to see there is Tapan Mishra's son, Raghunath Bhatta. Tapan Mishra, of course, that time, when this drama happened, that time Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was just 7 years old. And there also Mahaprabhu stayed in Tapan Mishra's house and used to take prasadam in Chandrasekhar Vaidya's house. And there, this small young Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta used to worship, assist and serve Mahaprabhu very nicely. And there itself, this Raghunath Bhatta got attached to Mahaprabhu. And he used to, every day he used to serve him, washing his clothes, washing his plate, serving him, helping him, and in many, many ways. Only for 2 months he could serve him. And Mahaprabhu left for Jagannath Puri after that. And he was again, after that, Raghunath Bhatta's attachment to Mahaprabhu kept on increasing and increasing and increasing. But Mahaprabhu told, you stay here, when you grow up, that time you come. He waited till his 20th age, he was there with parents, and suddenly one day he left his house to meet Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And of course, that time he left the house, everything, and he started traveling. Along with his travel, he found one person called Ramadas, I forgot the name. Ramadas Vishwas. He was traveling. He was a nice companion, nice traveling partner with him. Ramadas Vishwas was a nice devotee. He was always telling Krishna, Lord Rama's name, worship of devotee of Lord Ram. Used to all the time, 24 hours, used to talk Lord Ram's pastimes and this and that. And he was showing very nice Vaishnava etiquettes also. Okay, you are a Brahmana. He used to say, Ramadas used to say, I am the Shudra. You are the Brahmana. Let me serve you. Ei moda nicha dharma. Ramadas yati pathama. Prathama. Okay, then after Ramadas and this one, Raghunath Das Goswami reach to Jagannath Puri. Mahaprabhu that time welcomes Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami very nicely. He accepts him. He accepts him, and he keeps him under the care of Govinda Das, and takes him. Okay, please take care of him and arrange for his residence. But that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't give so much importance to this Ramdas Vishwas. The people were wondering, "अरे ऐसा कैसे हो गया?" Ramdas Vishwas was showing so much nice features, and he was speaking Krishna Hari Katha, speaking Ram Katha so nicely, talking to all devotees nicely, but Mahaprabhu was not giving him so much importance. Then it is mentioned that why Mahaprabhu was telling this, Mahaprabhu was doing this just because, it is mentioned Chaitanya Ramadasa kahe, Ami Shudra Adhama Brahmana Seva Ei Moja. Ramadasa यदि प्रथम प्रभु मिलिया महाप्रभु अधिक तारे कृपा न करिला. Mahaprabhu ने उसको, why didn't Mahaprabhu give it the kripa? Then Mahaprabhu, the reason is antare mumukshuteno vaidyakarvana sarvachitta nanda prabhu sarvajna bhagavana. Because this Ramadas Vishwas was, even though he was talking about Lord Ram's name on his lips, but internally he had a desire to merge into Lord Ram. He was the Mayavadi in his heart. That's why Mahaprabhu was not accepting his association at all. So we have to be very, very careful in this lesson. We have to understand, even though we see somebody who is talking about Harikatha, somebody is talking about Harinam, but what is his mood? We have to very, very carefully understand. Somebody is speaking of philosophy, speaking of Leela of the Lords and all these things, and maybe singing so nicely, but if he has a desire to merge into Lord Ram, merge into the Lordship, then we have to stay away from him. Mayavada Bhasha Sunile, Harya Sarvanash. So we have to be very, very careful about this association. We have some people in our vicinity also who speaks Krishna Katha, who speaks Radha Nam, who speaks, they show off, they present as a nice sannyasi and all these people. But when we see them and when we hear them, they're speaking about Advaita principle and the principles of Mayavad, we should not ever hear from them. It is kind of a poison it is like a milk touched by poisonous snake. Milk is nourishing, definitely, but when it is touched by the poison of Mayavad, it is poisonous. Why Mayavad is poisonous? Of course, it is almost like Mayavad is like getting merged into the existence of the Lord. It is like becoming one with the Lord, or maybe becoming the Lord himself. The idea of becoming a Lord is very, very offensive, first of all. Actually, our position with respect to the Lord is of a servant. What we say? We have a principle. We have a principles like okay. So we see what is our position in with respect to Krishna is Gopil Bhattur Padakamalayur Das Dasanu Das. But when somebody understands that no, let me merge with Krishna, of course this is very, very common in the people today. Even today, some old folk in our vicinity, they say, I will do so much bhakti and I will Krishna mein merge ho jayenge, vileen ho jayenge. This concept has very, very strong rooted into our misconception into our culture sometimes. But this is not actual idea of Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas, they always keep themselves as a servant of Krishna, not at the level of Krishna. Merging in Krishna, merging in the Brahman is like putting ourselves at the level of the God. It's very, very wrong, very, very offensive. So we have to be always careful about being in the right position. So in this way, this Jagannath didn't give so much mercy to Ramdas Vishwas, but Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he gave lots of mercy. He kept him with him, and he was there with him for almost 8 months. Raghunath Goswami, whenever Mahaprabhu used to take prashadam, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami used to serve him nicely. He used to cook for him. He used to, whenever Raghunath Bhatta Goswami used to cook, Mahaprabhu used to eat it a lot. He did complete. Mahaprabhu had lots of restrictions for his diet and all these things. But Raghunath Goswami, Mahaprabhu, whenever Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Bhatta to go home and stay with parents. One important instruction he gave. Ashtamasara Vivahana Kariha Bali Shedha Karila. He told him to go home, but don't get married. Very important. And he says, you have to go home and serve your own parents. The Mata Pita Kara Hasavan Vaishnava Pasha Bhagavad Kara Adhyayan. So he has to serve his old parents. Of course, these two things happened into Chaitanya Leela. When Raghunath Das Goswami came, Mahaprabhu told him to leave your parents and come here. And when Raghunath Bhatta Goswami came, again one more Raghunath, but he said, you go home and serve your parents. These two things happened very, very different. There, Srila Prabhupada writes nice purport to this verse. Why Mahaprabhu gave these two separate, two different instructions to different people? Serving parents is important, but here Mahaprabhu was telling to Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, because his parents were very, very highly devoted Vaishnavas. To serving them is very important. But of course, when Raghunath Das Goswami's parents were there, and of course they were Vaishnavas, but they were attached to the money and attached to their business, everything. So Mahaprabhu says, okay, not required to serve them nicely. But yes, here Raghunath Das Goswami, yes, he said, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he told them to go home and take care of them till the end of their life. But don't get married. Because getting married is entanglement. He told that you are already, Mahaprabhu saw Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was nicely situated in the principles of brahmacharya. He was nicely practicing it. And he says it's not important for you to get entangled into the family life. In this way, if you do, you'll be able to serve Krishna nicely. He told them, you serve them till the end of their life and come back here in Puri. It was instruction only to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami to come back to Puri. Other Goswamis, he sent them back to Vrindavan and don't come back. He never called them back. But yes, here he called them back. After that, after the death of his parents, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami came back to Mahaprabhu. Again, he served him for 8 months and Mahaprabhu ordered him to go back to Vrindavan and start serving along with Rup and Raghunath. So and then, of course, while before that, Mahaprabhu already instructed when he was taking care of his parents, he had given 2 instructions. First thing, he was to take care of the parents and don't get married. Secondly, he instructed him to get drowned into the rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he told to hear Bhagavatam from proper Vaishnava. Vaishnava pasa Bhagavata kara adhyayan. So in this time, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was so he started studying Srimad Bhagavatam so deeply that he became so expert into speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. He when he went back to Vrindavan, he came to Vrindavan here, and he used to started serving along with the other Goswamis. So people used to always eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He used to sing Bhagavatam verses into different tunes, different meters and different bhavas. And the explanation of his Srimad Bhagavatam was so ecstatic that people used to love to hear from him. And in this way, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami also became associate of these 6 Goswamis. Of course, not much is written and known about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami after this, because these Goswamis many times they give promises to they take promises from all the authors that whenever you write about something about Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you should not write about them. So we don't find much literature about this, but yeah, some literatures we find about them in a later writings like Bhakti Ratnakar and all these things. But yeah, of course, their contribution to to this Vrindavan Dham is enormous. This Goswamis, they cultivated so nice devotees, so they built up so nice temples, and they propagated these bhakti principles all over the places. So they were very instrumental into strengthening this bhakti sampradaya. Okay, so this is about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami here. Fine. Anyway, so we'll stop here on time. Hare Krishna.